Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. That's a phrase that has not been relevant since television went digital and has never been relevant on the internet. This is a new series I'm trying out called Good Eggs and Bad Eggs. Bad Eggs is like EGS, like it's short for examples. You get it? I came up with that title in like 2 seconds and did not take another pass at it. Anyway, this is where I'm going to examine themes, tropes, and ideas that come up across different media examples and deconstruct examples where they're done well and examples where they're done badly. This time I'll be looking at sitcom episodes where a character is accused of sexual harassment and has to attend an HR seminar. I have 2 examples where it's very bad and one where it's really quite good. Let's go! In the Season 2 episode of Family Guy called I Am Peter, Hear Me Roar, a series of events cause Peter to believe that he is God's gift to comedy, and then he tells an inappropriate joke to a female co-worker. The joke of this scene is that Peter lacks the intelligence to realise he's being inappropriate, but it's also that this woman lacks the intelligence to realise that she's intruding on a man's space where men are safe to be pervy without judgment. You know, just normal guy stuff, like making a hostile environment for women. You don't mess with that, you silly goose. He's then introduced to the episode's straw feminist. Oh my god, this is actually her name. Gloria Ironbox. Yep. I don't think comedy has to be subtle, but this is some Bond girl shit. Anyway, on the threat of losing his job, Peter attends sensitivity training, which he sucks at. He does such a bad job that Gloria Ironbox sends him to a women's retreat to get in touch with his feminine side. That plot point gets a yikes from me, but as far as contrived sitcom setups go, it's pretty normal. So at this retreat, they sit in a circle and talk about the kinds of things the all-male writing staff think women talk about when they're alone.
We women have so much strength inside us.
And Peter is the worst. And then he falls out of a tree and injures himself so badly that the women accept him.
Now that you've felt a woman's pain, the learning can begin.
He arrives home from the retreat completely changed. He's a woman now. Or at least what the, I cannot stress enough, all-male writing staff think a woman is.
Put the tea on, I have stories. But first, I'm gonna go freshen up and rinse out a few things. Oh, fudge, I broke a nail. Oh, beans, I can't get this spit curl to... Lois, what day is it? Look, I don't care how many letters we gotta write. The View should be on for 3 hours.
Lois is into it at first, but then it becomes a pain in the ass because Peter no longer treats Lois like a woman. He treats her like an equal. Seriously, that's it.
Oh, this is just great. Now my own wife is forced to cook dinner for a lousy husband?
Peter, you're my husband. At least you used to be. I'm glad you discovered your feminine side, but I didn't want you to forget about mine.
He comes home and he says he hates seeing her make dinner for an ungrateful husband, and Lois is pissed because he's not taking her femininity into account. So what we've learned here is that femininity is being unappreciated and experiencing pain. That sucks. Eventually, Gloria is mean to Lois.
I'm sorry you're so hostile towards someone who's fighting so a woman like you can become more than just a housewife. No wonder your husband didn't respect women.
Excuse me?
I can't imagine how screwed up your kids must be.
And here, the episode almost reaches what might be called a good point. First and second wave feminism did a great job of getting women out of the home and into the workplace, but the state of capitalism now means that it's less and less possible to support a household on just one income. Basically, the only way to spend your life as a homemaker or a stay-at-home parent is to have a bullshit wealthy partner. But instead of landing on a conclusion that is, like, interesting, the writers land on the conclusion that feminism is bad because a feminist was mean to Lois. Anyway, they fight in a fountain, and Peter is so overwhelmed by the sight of breasts that he learns to be a man again. Here, being a man means treating his wife like shit. And this is a happy ending. Alright, so here's the part of the script where I preempt some comments I'm going to be receiving. Here we go. I know I'll be getting a lot of comments that say this is a satire and I should stop getting my fallopian tubes in a twist because this is clearly a satire and meant to be taken satirically. Well, shush. There is some really good satire within the episode.
Irrational and emotionally fragile by nature, female co-workers are a peculiar animal. They are very insecure about their appearance. Be sure to tell them how good they look every day, even if they're homely and unkempt.
The reason this is good satire is that it has a clear target and purpose. The butt of the joke is men who are not used to women in the workplace and need to be taught how to approach them as if they were an alien species. If this episode were to go in a more interesting direction, a connection could be drawn between the overt sexism of the past and the more subtle sexism of the present, and that would meet a basic criteria for satire. Instead, the plot of the episode treats sexism as if the bulk of it is from the past, and even though there might be some contemporary examples, they're not worth overreacting to. Gloria is the villain not because she calls Peter out on his bullshit, but because she reacts to him as if he were this guy, which, in the show's logic, is irrational. If the episode as a whole were to be taken as a satire, then the only message is feminists are overreacting and should shut up. The argument that this is satire relies on the notion that Peter shouldn't be taken as an example of good behaviour, which is not a reading the text of the episode supports. Yes, Peter's behaviour is shown to be wrong. He is shown again and again treating the women in his life like garbage, and his change in behaviour to the extreme opposite could be seen as a call to find a happy medium. However, the character we're meant to sympathise with is Lois, and Lois isn't happy until Peter is returned to the arsehole he used to be. And before you say, but humour is subjective, yeah? I don't think every joke should have to be explained, but I think you should at least understand why you're laughing at what you find funny. And besides that, the problem with this episode isn't that it's not funny or that my sense of humour is too sophisticated. Like, I lost my mind at this bit.
10 banana cream pies!
I think people get defensive when humour gets deconstructed because they think that whoever is doing the deconstructing is saying you are a bad person if you ever laughed at this. But here's the thing, I watched this episode when I was 14 and I thought it was funny. I laughed at all the jokes, I didn't think too hard about the conclusion, and I moved on to whatever episode came next on the DVD. But now that I'm an adult with better media literacy, this kind of humour just hits different. And finally, this episode was released in the year 2000. That's 20 of our Earth years ago. You can't judge it by current standards. Well, thank you for that, you've actually led me directly into a point I want to make. Firstly, you absolutely can reevaluate old media by current standards. That's part of growing up. That's everything from watching a movie you used to find comfort in and it not making you feel the same to the reappraisal of Jennifer's body and how much it absolutely owns bones. Second, Seth MacFarlane is clearly a very smart person and a talented writer, but he demonstrates again and again that no matter what the topic is, he is unwilling to accept a view that is not his own. For example, it seems that no amount of backlash will stop him from making transphobic jokes. In response to criticism of TED 2, he said that once the outrage industry shuts down, I will be happy to have an adult conversation about all of this stuff anytime anyone wants. But even though I'm on the side of support, I just don't think there's any way to. Yeah, dude really knows how to make himself the victim. Just think about all those poor workers in the outrage factory who are left jobless now that the outrage industry is shut down. Also, sometimes I think about this news article about the announcement that Family Guy would be phasing out the gay jokes, and I don't know if it's funnier that this happened in the year of our Lord 2019, or that they can't just give up homophobia all at once. Moving on. Season 6 of The Big Bang Theory features an episode called The Egg Salad Equivalency, wherein Sheldon's inability to get his head out of his own ass lands him in trouble with HR. Like the episode of Family Guy I was just talking about, this episode only has men credited as writers. I'm not saying men can't write well about this kind of thing, I'm just noticing a pattern. Sheldon's long-suffering assistant Alex flirts with Leonard, but Sheldon cannot accept that she would have any focus beyond her employer and whatever tasks he offloads onto her. On the advice of the only women he knows, Sheldon talks to her about it. The conversation starts okay, but devolves quickly when he accuses her of being a slave to her menstrual cycle. Alex reports him to HR, and his conversation with the HR rep makes it a lot worse.
Confusion here. No, Alex thought I was singling her out. No, I meant that all women are slaves to their biological urges, you know? Yeah, even you. You're a slave.
And also calls attention to his friends and their bullshit. Eventually, Sheldon accepts that he should apologize to Alex, but then he offloads the online sexual harassment seminar onto her because he has more important things to do with his time. Studio audience laughs, a B-plot is resolved, credits roll. So, that's a lot to unpack. Sheldon's behaviour is usually presented as unacceptable in the series, but this is one of those rare instances where he's entirely let off the hook. Like, He never really has to deal with meaningful consequences, but this time not even his friends think he should change his behaviour. His sexual harassment of Alex is just an extension of how he thinks his intelligence means he can treat people like garbage. But since Alex is not one of the main cast, we don't actually have to care about how this makes her feel. A problem I've always had with Bing Bong Theory, even when I used to enjoy the show, is that it misses an opportunity to examine what it means to be smart. Like really, really smart. As smart as these characters theoretically are. All of these characters have multiple degrees, most have PhDs, and their work involves unraveling the secrets of the universe. But the only thing Bamblotungus wants us to believe about intelligence is that having it makes you a nightmare to be around. Penny is, for all intents and purposes, a normal person. She is the long-suffering friend of a bunch of nerds who in turn suffer because of Sheldon's giant brain. The only thing the show has to say about what it means to be smart is that it makes you the absolute worst to be around. Finally, 12 episodes into the 6th season, the show has a different message about what intelligence means. That if you're a good smart science boy, you get to treat women like shit. Much like Family Guy, Bambo's theorem accidentally backs itself into what could reasonably be called a good point. They have accidentally perfectly represented a massive problem that keeps women out of STEM. Men in senior positions will say gross shit to you, and you just have to deal with it. Here's a personal story. When I was a kid, I loved STEM subjects. I was great at maths, science was my jam, I loved building things and working out designs for machines I could build. They never would have worked because I was 10, but the spirit was there. I went from wanting a career in the sciences to pursuing a career entirely in the humanities. Grade 11 was the last time I did a science subject, and I spent years, seriously nearly an entire decade, blaming myself for just not being good enough. If I'd had the education in sociology that I have now, I would have recognized that I didn't drop chemistry because I was shit at it. I dropped chemistry because I was in a room full of extremely confident boys who believed that they had a right to be there and girls didn't. All the girls in the room had to prove themselves either worthy to stay or worthy of scorn. I was pushed out of STEM by a whole bunch of factors, but a big one was a system designed to eliminate the insecurities of boys and prey on the insecurities of girls. Now, I know my experience isn't totally universal, and I did have a particularly shitty chemistry teacher, but I also know that some version of this happens just about everywhere. Nobel-winning biochemist Dr. Tim Hunt believes that labs should be gender segregated, because when you criticize women, they cry, and having women in the lab is distracting to men who might fall in love with them. This is obviously a big pile of bullshit, but even people who disagreed with him, had to act like his argument was worth anything just because it came from an important galaxy brain Nobel Prize winning science man. When women talk about their treatment in patriarchal society, it's common for some dickhead to say something along the lines of, well, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. But I think the question shouldn't be, why are so many people wandering into the kitchen if they can't take the heat? And should be, why is the kitchen so hot in the first place? Do you like it like this? Why don't you think this is a problem? Also, there's this bit where we find out that Howard has been called into HR so often that he's on a first-name basis with the HR lady, but he hasn't had a single issue since he got together with Bernadette. And the idea that sexual harassers just need a girlfriend and they'll stop being sexual harassers is, a problem. Well, now I'm sad. Let's talk about Better Off Ted. Better Off Ted is one of those shows that had a great concept but was cancelled before its time. The central character is Ted Crisp, who works for Viridian Dynamics, a company that does vague science things in whatever way will move the plot forward. A typical episode involves Ted trying to solve a problem while acting as a kind of intermediary between the admin staff, represented by Linda, the research and development team, represented by Phil and Lem, and upper management, represented by Veronica. Hijinks ensue. In the episode The Great Repression, Linda is accused of sexual harassment as a result of her unwanted attempts to comfort a coworker.
Oh, that's okay, Linda. I'm not really a physically affectionate kind of person.
Don't be such a tough guy. Everyone needs a hug sometimes.
See? Doesn't this feel good?
Ted tries to improve the situation, but makes it a whole lot worse.
You want Linda and me to get better acquainted?
Sure. Maybe go out sometime after work. Have some fun. I could come too if you want. All three of us could do it.
Oh, I don't think that would be a good idea.
Oh, come on, Sheila. Don't fight it. Oh, wait.
Veronica steps in and tries to talk to the lawyer who handles sexual harassment complaints, but he's not in and his secretary has absolutely no respect for his privacy.
He's a drunk. He's in rehab. Again.
Well, it's nice how you honor his struggle.
He does this 5 times a year, but the company can't fire him because he has a disease.
This gives Veronica the idea to have sexual misconduct classified as a disease, because a disease can't get you fired. Ted and Linda attend an HR-mandated seminar, which is illuminating.
Bottom line, I'm not a harasser.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I don't belong here either. Although I would be open to some private tutoring.
I'm innocent too. I just tripped and grabbed some chick's boobs to keep from falling.
As a result of Veronica's bright idea, everyone starts flirting with everyone. Productivity is down, office horniness is way up, and Linda has a revelation about sexual harassment.
Hey, wait a minute. That's gross. Our goofball teacher was right. What you're doing right now isn't about sex, it's about power.
Linda realizes that it doesn't matter that she was just trying to comfort Sheila, her behavior was inappropriate. The hug wasn't unacceptable because it ended with her face in Sheila's boobs, it was unacceptable because Sheila didn't want to be touched. Unlike in Family Guy or Busby's Tango, we've actually learned something about sexual harassment and how it functions. It starts in a similar mode, where claims of sexual harassment are problems for the person who is accused, but it ends by examining how sexual harassment hurts the person who is harassed. I think a big part of why that is that of the 3 episodes I'm talking about in this video, this is the only one that has women in the writing credits. I don't want to chalk it up 100% to something as simple as having more than one gender in the writer's room. I think a lot of it also comes down to how thoughtful Better Off Ted usually is. My point is, in Family Guy and Bingus Tingus, your sympathy is supposed to go to the accused, but in Better Off Ted, your sympathy is supposed to go to the accuser. The reason I picked these 3 episodes is not because they're all about sexual harassment, but because they all feature sexual harassment seminars. Unlike Homer Badman, which I discussed in my first video, these 3 episodes are structured around the involvement of the Human Resources Department in what is a serious and difficult interpersonal issue. I have some thoughts as to why sitcoms like these make episodes about sexual harassment more about the seminar than the harassment. Being sexually harassed has ruined lives. People leave jobs or even whole careers to get away from their harassers. People can be left with PTSD and other mental health issues. It's something that happens frequently enough that it enters the realm of relatable workplace humour, but it's also something that needs to be handled with the respect that harassment victims deserve. Dealing with HR, on the other hand? Well, that's never not funny. In all 3 of these episodes, HR is kind of useless. They always resolve the complaint, but they never fix the problem. In Family Guy, Peter fails his sensitivity training, but we see a guy pass by reciting some awkwardly formal nonsense.
Thank you, Miss Ironbox. You are a valued member of our business team and every bit as important to this company as I am.
In Brappling Trampoline, Sheldon is assigned an online course which he is able to pass off to someone else. Plus, Howard has any number of complaints about him, and his behaviour only changed because of something unrelated and didn't even change that much. In Better Off Ted, Linda doesn't pay much attention to the seminar and learns all her most important lessons largely by accident, and none of the other seminar attendees learn a thing. In all of these examples, HR doesn't exist to protect employees, it exists to protect the company. After all, if that lawyer had better support in his workplace, maybe he wouldn't be in rehab 5 times a year? This all speaks to an HR department that looks at every problem in terms of their minimum responsibility to avoid the company being sued. You know the saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail? Well, when all you have is seminars, everything looks like an opportunity for a seminar. Better Off Ted clearly has the best episode, but all 3 make their best points kinda by accident. In Family Guy, it's that ideological factionalism can divide people who are theoretically working towards the same goal. In Bingus Tingle, it's that men in senior research positions get away with treating women like shit. And in Better Off Ted, it's that for all their best intentions, HR might not achieve a whole lot because their goal is to make the company look good rather than to solve problems. But let's finish up by looking at the points the episode's made on purpose. In Family Guy, it's that if you're accused of sexual harassment, don't worry about it, because the person teaching you that sexism is bad is a shitty person and your wife will beat her up. In Bafblum's Tangram, it's that if you're accused of sexual harassment, don't worry about it, because you are a good, smart science lad whose powerful brain exempts you from treating your colleagues with basic decency. And in Better Off Ted, it's that if you're accused of sexual harassment, you need to think about your behaviour and how it affects other people. Anyway, the comment word is carbonara, and if I don't see it, I'll know you didn't watch all the way to the end before commenting. Awesome, you've made it to the end of my video, and your reward is some more of my voice. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me and what I do, you can start by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I'm on various social medias as well. One of these days I'll set up a Patreon, but for now I would really appreciate you sending some cash my way on PayPal. That's it from me. Have a lovely day and say hi to your pets for me. Goodbye.